Saurabh, and you're listening to my favorite talk show, The Weekly Show with Aditya.
This is episode 372 on the 2nd of June 2021. So we are into the second half of 2021 and it's on a special Wednesday sultry afternoon. Let's get cracking by seeing what are the highlights for this evening's episode. We shall be discussing the England New Zealand tournament, that is the live commentary of the England New Zealand match, and as well as continue our discussion into the environment day. Let's begin. England and New Zealand meet after 2 years since the controversial ending to the World ODI Championship final. And for New Zealand, it's unfinished business. Though for few critics and Puritans, they will say that test matches, one day matches, 20 over matches are three different things. But for me, it's still unfinished business for New Zealand since the controversial ending to that match. What was the controversy? Everyone knows about that, so that shall be discussed later on. For England, they are without Stokes and all-rounders Stokes and Sam Curran, as well as all-rounder Moeen Ali and wicket keepers Josh Butler and Johnny Bairstow. Why are the England team without them? Why is the England team without these five players? Because these five players played in the Indian domestic 20 over World Cup recently, and the England Cricket Board felt that since they haven't played the longer version, they won't be able to adapt. So they need to be left out and they have to play a couple of local domestic games before they get back into the groove. So these players have been left out. And there are a couple of debutants for both the teams. For New Zealand, it's a big deal. 2 years ago, they were in the World ODI Championship finals, and now 2 years later, they will be in the finals of the World Test Championship. Though, unlike the ODI match, if there was a tie, there would be a super over. Here, if there's a draw or a tie, though the International Cricket Council has tried to make sure that there is an extra day if any of the days is affected by rain or other weather distractions. If bad light prevents, they can make up on the sixth day. That will depend on what the umpires and the match referee, and since this is a ICC conducted tournament, not a private series between two countries, whatever the ICC decides, it will happen. It won't be just left to the umpires and the match referee. The ICC officials will also be a part of this particular tournament. And for India, it's an opportunity once the World Test Championship match starts, just 2 weeks away from Friday. They have an opportunity to be Grand Slam champions, which means they have won the 20 over World Cup, they have two 50 over World Cups, they have won the Mini World Cup or the Champions Trophy, and now they have a chance to win the Test World Cup. But more on that, let's look at what is the score for the England New Zealand match. And Slam champions, which means they so New Zealand are 22 for 0 after 5 overs. Well, they are going at a good rate, and England have Broad and Anderson getting ready to bowl. So 6 overs done, 22 for 0, a decent start, and they have given debutant to another player in Conway. But look at the New Zealand team. They are going with fast bowlers. They are going with Tim Southee, Neil Wagner, Kyle Jamieson, and Colin the Grandhomme. Despite Colin the Grandhomme affected by injuries, and they're going with at least 3 all-rounders in Kyle Jamieson, Colin the Grandhomme, and Mitchell Santner. And one more thing, India is not even going with one fast bowling all-rounder. They have left out Pandya because of the fact that he is not able to play the 5-day game and whatever excuses they have. On the other hand, New Zealand are going with 3 all-rounders and 2 fast bowlers. You can even call someone like Tim Southee a semi all-rounder. Then they have a good batting lineup with Kane Williamson also coming in as the all-rounder if needed, but that is a good team. 4 fast bowlers and 1 spinner. Kyle Jamieson, who was recruited by the Bangalore team, and when he was bowling, he went for once, but in his short career, he has done well so far, and that is why New Zealand's chances of doing well in the finals will make a difference because of this reason that they have couple of very good all-rounders. On the other hand, India are dependent on half and half all-rounder in Shardul Thakur, as well as Conway drives beautifully through the covers, and this will reach the boundary. And once again, the gap between the boundary rope and the advertising hoardings is huge. Everyone says the boundaries are shorter, but here the boundaries are shorter by choice. It must have been a decision by both the board that yes, there will be a gap between the boundary ropes. In fact, this same gap existed even 20 years ago, but nobody saw that.
It's
Now,
16 hours.
no one wants to even say that there is some kind of modern day thing happening. Well, I disagree with that, as New Zealand are 27 for 0, a good start. The weather is good in England, no rains, no conditions, and this time it's flicked away inside edge and they take a single. So 6.2 overs, 27 for 0, good run rate. And if the ball doesn't swing, bowlers like Anderson and Broad are rendered ineffective. Since this is the perfect time to bat, and if New Zealand even managed to make 350, 400 with the England batting lineup, yes, they don't have a couple of good all-rounders, no Sam Curran. England have also gone with 4 fast bowlers and a spinner. Mark Wood comes back. He was bowling well in the India series in the 50 over matches, so he will also get an opportunity, which means the pressure will be on Root and the openers to do well, because England don't have the all-rounders. Have they gone with a new all-rounder? That will be seen, as this one is guided straight to gully, no runs, 28 for 0. So all the pressure will be on the likes of youngsters Ollie Pope, Dominic Sibley, Zach Crawley, the wicketkeeper who is a debutant. Do they have an all-rounder? I will let you know. But no Stokes, no Sam Curran, no Butler, no Bates. So it means that England has to bowl well. If New Zealand toss 300, 350, it will be difficult for England. And of course, if the weather remains like this, bright and sunny, then New Zealand has the batting. They have the batters who do well in the 50 overs and the 20 over formats, in the likes of Mitchell Satner, the all rounder, Kyle Jamieson, the all rounder, and Colin the ground home. He is suffering from injuries. Despite that, New Zealand has selected him. Shows the mindset of the New Zealand selectors and the archaic mindset of the Indian selectors. That is for everyone to see. And that's what bothers me. Will India also go with four fast bowlers and one spinner? Who will be that one spinner? Because it will be a four-way tie between the four spinning all-rounders in Akshar Patel, Washington Sundar, Jadeja and Ashwin. But I think if they have to go with a spinning all-rounder and four fast bowlers, as these two teams have done, which means one of the fast bowlers will be Shardul Thakur. That's obvious. The three fast bowlers could be Mohammad Shami, Jasprit Bumrah and Ishant Sharma along with Shardul Thakur. That could be the four fast bowlers, which means it will be a choice between Rahane Pujara and Hanuma Vihari. One of these three, out of these three, only two can play. It will be a difficult choice, and that's something that I'm looking forward to. So far, a decent start by New Zealand, a good start. And that's how it should be. But before we discuss this any further, let's take a short break. Welcome back after the break. Let's continue the discussion. Unlike New Zealand, who have a couple of very good all-rounders, England don't have, in fact, they don't even have a proper fifth bowler, which means and possibly Joe Root will have to do all the bowling effort. He will have to be the fifth bowler or 4 3/4 bowler. Remember 9 3/4 from a certain movie and a book. It will be a 4 3/4 bowling, which means four fast bowlers, out of which none of them are effective all-rounders. So don't expect them to be anything more. So the decision to leave out those two all-rounders in Stokes and Sam Curran, if they go on to lose this match, it will come back to haunt them. But let's carry on the discussion. Let's move away from this match and let's carry on and discuss the second theme of this evening's episode. As always, the discussion on Environment Day continues because the Environment Day is just 3 days away and the theme is ecosystem restoration. Now, let me give you some interesting examples. Once upon a time, there used to be erratic power supply. To counter that, institution, homes, and other large establishments used to have generators. For generators, we needed diesel, and then diesel was a pollutant. Everybody knew that, but there was no option since the power supply was erratic. You could see huge generators in institutions, which meant not only air pollution but noise pollution. Therefore, my question is, why are we so fixated and obsessed with clean energy? Why only air pollution? Where does noise pollution go? We didn't give it a thought when we used generators 15-20 years ago because we needed the electricity. In fact, having a generator was a huge deal, was an elite thing to have. Only very few individuals could afford generators. It could be generators as small as a motorcycle or generators which could take up an entire room. And now, 20 years later, there is uninterrupted power supply, which means the use of generators has gone down. Diesel is not being used as a fuel, so we expect that there would be no pollution. Well, that's wrong. There is still pollution. Of course, the discussion on radiation and mobile towers after effects will come soon, but let's discuss this. Uninterrupted power supply means no diesel generators, which would mean no pollution, but that's incorrect. That's a wrong thought process. There is still pollution, there is noise pollution, because uninterrupted power supply means gadgets being used 24 hours a day, and your computer, the mobile phone, or any other gadget still has that noiseless noise, that hum that generates it. There is a vibration when you switch on your gadget, so there is noise pollution, and this is what is baffling me, that why all the debate is about clean energy, global warming, climate change. Where is the discussion around noise pollution? Well, no one has any answer to that because no one is bothered about noise pollution. For them, air pollution is a source of discussion and a source of revenue. Well, here comes an interesting study. Study says climate crisis caused 37 of heat fatalities. Interesting. Don't we get affected by noise? Nobody wants to discuss that. About 37% of all heat related deaths worldwide can be attributed to anthropogenic climate change, says a paper that was published in Nature Climate Change. Well and good. Interesting study. Yes, a concern, but not good enough. Add noise pollution to this discussion. Otherwise, don't have this fictitious discussion on climate change. That's interesting. Well, that I don't know what else to add to that. So let's go back to the match. So New Zealand, of course, they will bat slowly. 34-0 in England. No rain, which means Anderson brought, despite their 600 wicket and despite all the hype surrounding these two, if there is no overcast condition, it doesn't rain, these two are rendered ineffective, useless, and that is why on days when it's bright and sunny in England, teams make 600. There could be later on in the day when there could be bad light and those events could happen, but if this is a good start, looking at the fact that England have 4 and 3/4 bowlers, that is something they have to understand. It may not be as hot as in India. It could be 20 degrees, but still it's a huge deal. 4 and 3/4 bowlers. I can already see Anderson after 5 bowlers huffing and puffing, and you can see the effect it's having, that the captain is forced to bring the new guy, that's the debutant in this context, Robinson, who has played a lot of domestic games, which is good. But is he the all-rounder? We will never know. There are no all-rounders, no Moeen Ali, no Sam Curran, no Ben Stokes, who could have bowled well. They could have added to the batting, means their batting lineup is also weakened. They left out those 5 because of their own archaic traditional reasons. It will come back to haunt them later on in the match. They may feel it won't, but this is where it will come back to haunt them.
For more awesome content, tune in to the next episode of the weekly show with Aditya.
This ends episode number 372 on the 2nd of June 2021. I will be back with the next episode on Friday, 4th of June 2021, episode number 373. This time it will be the usual morning 10 a.m. time. You can also get my books, The Fifth Empire and Beyond the TV, on Amazon through the platform of ebook format and hard copy, and I urge you to read both the books and in detail, for you will never find books like these ever again. You can also subscribe to my videos on my channel.